Hello and welcome. You are live on Sports Today, minutes after stumps in the one-off test match between England and India women. They too belonged to England, you'd have to say there. It began on a promising note for India, with Jhulan Goswami taking an early wicket, but England women managed 396 for 9 declared, thanks in no small measure to England's only debutant, Sophia Dunkley, who was unbeaten on 74. India, though, started brilliantly. It was a great reply from openers Shafali Verma and Smriti Mandhana. Shafali Verma, what can you say about a 17-year-old Shafali Verma? Um, Broke a couple of records, but she also broke a lot of hearts. 96 on debut. She fell 4 runs short of what would have been a historic 100 on Test match debut. Shefali Verma, the 17-year-old uh, batter, who remember there were lots of questions asked when she wasn't selected for the ODI series against South Africa earlier this year, despite her stellar performances in T20 internationals. In fact, she was India's best player with the bat in the T20 World Cup. Surprisingly, she was not considered for the ODI side against South Africa. But look at what she's done here. Great start um, to her Test career. 96, she'd be really heartbroken. Look at the records. I mean, 100 is 100 on debut, right? She'd be happy when she looks back at her debut innings, at the way she batted. But 100 is 100. You can never take that away. But there's another India great who fell just short of 100 on debut, Rahul Dravid, if you remember, 95 at Lords. So who knows? There are good precedents too, right? So 96. So what are the records she could have achieved? Well, she now has the highest score by an Indian debutant in women's Test cricket. The record was, of course, previously had by Chandrakanta Kaul when scored 95 against New Zealand in 1995. That was a record that was held for so many years, and young Shafali Verma at 17 broke that. She could have become the youngest to score 100 in women's Test. Well, that chance also went begging. She was just 4 runs short, 96, when she tried to when she sliced one up in the air in a bid to get to her 100 quickly. Did that milestone play up in her mind? She's only 17. Imagine, she's only 17. Think back of how many of us and what we were doing when we were that age, 17, and she was playing. She was really anchoring that charge for India. The record is, of course, the youngest. The record for the youngest 100 in women's Test is currently held by Sri Lanka's Chamani Seneviratana. Shafali still has a couple of years. She still has 2 years to get there. That's, as Indian fans, keep your fingers crossed. Nobody else does that before Shafali Verma. Well, that was the kind of day it was for Shafali Verma and India. Of course, this was also the second highest partnership away from home in women's Tests. The highest is, of course, 200 between Carolyn Atkins and Aaron Brindle. Ironically, that was for England versus India in Lucknow back in 2002. And the second highest partnership away from home in women's Test is now held by Smriti Mandhana, 167. Between by Smriti Mandhana and Shefali Verma. In fact, they stand at 167, which came in Bristol now. Smriti Mandhana was, of course, also in the runs. She was brilliant today alongside Shafali Verma. They really put India in a strong, dominant position after England declared at a mammoth first innings score. It was a great batting performance by the two openers. Smriti Mandhana, of course, also fell for 78 not long after Shefali Verma got out for 96. And from there on, really, it was India's fault. It was India who was to blame for the way they capitulated that batting lineup. Um, Shikha Pandey was sent ahead of Mithali Raj. That experiment didn't work. Mithali Raj got out. Shikha Pandey got out for a duck. Mithali Raj got out for two. Poonam Raut labored on for 2 of 31 balls. England skipper had a night, picking up 2 wickets, barely giving away any runs. So that was the way the cookie crumbled for India at the end of the day. 187 for 5 at stumps, still adrift, still trailing England by 209 runs. at the end of day two. It really was at that stage they were 167 for no loss or 167 for one when Shafali Verma got out, and really 5 wickets falling for literally nothing, 4 or 5 wickets there, falling very very early. That's the update. Then from Bristol, where India women now have a lot of catching up to do. They indeed have a lot of catching up to do between from and the onus is now on Harmanpreet Kaur. The only bright spark at the end of the day for India is that Harmanpreet Kaur is still at the crease alongside Deepti Sharma. But then you'll have to say this test match has belonged to the debutants so far. This women's test match, this historic women's test match has so far belonged to the debutants. Sneh Rana, the pick of the bowlers for India with 4 wickets. Deepti Sharma herself picking up 3 wickets. Of course, Sophia Dunkley scoring an unbeaten 74. And then Shafali Verma 96. Wow, that was heartbreaking. Heather Knight, of course, in her 100th match as England captain, got out for 95, 5 runs short of what would have been a memorable century for her as well. Well, Arush Shah is asking, how did this happen? Stop watching for 20 minutes thinking India will easily finish without losing any wicket. The next thing I saw was my Harmanpreet Kaur batting with Deepti Sharma. Arush, a lot of us are shocked as you are. Really, that batting lineup capitulated. They have only themselves to blame after that. Shefali Verma, Smriti Mandhana, sensational start, but really, the Indian batters would be pretty disappointed. Sachin Chaudhary, Shefali Verma deserved 100. Of course, she did. She certainly did deserve 100. What a knock that was! What a knock! Well played by both the India women openers. Sachin, you're absolutely right. A record partnership that was Rakesh Kumar Das saying, really, it's a storm comes to play after the matter class of Lady Sachin. Well, let's not. Shefali Verma, well, yeah, it's incredibly difficult to digest that for her, right? 17 years old, these things happen in cricket. She's good enough to get many more hundreds, but 17 years old, only 17 years old, and she deserved that 100, like a lot of you saying. It is indeed heartbreaking. B boy is saying she got out on 96. Yes, she did. 4 runs short of what would have been a well-deserved historic 100 on debut. Well, like I said, I know Shefali Verma, she has proven her mettle in the past. You've seen her in the T20 international format, what she's capable of doing, what a talent she is. Of course, she will get many more opportunities to score, to get those big scores in Test cricket and in other formats. So here's hoping a great future for Shefali Verma. But India, meanwhile, they have a lot of catching up to do in Bristol against a strong England team. Their batting has really imploded after that sensational start from Shefali and Smriti Mandhana. Well, we'll have to see what Harmanpreet and Deepti Sharma can do from here on. Try and cut that deficit as far as possible, and really uh, put India in a position where they can uh, launch another fight back. They are a good team. Hopefully, Harmanpreet Kaur will lead the charge for India on the third day. But yes, at the end of the day, this is England's test match. From here on, they're really in the driver's seat, leading by 209 runs. India just have 5 wickets left in their first innings. That was poor batting after that great great partnership. Bhupender Singh Chauhan feel so proud that we have our women players doing great in England, especially Shafali. Literally felt really bad when she got out to 96. Absolutely right. It was heartbreaking for all of us. I couldn't believe myself. We were just thinking and talking of the records and the numbers that she was going to get, of the records that she was going to hold on forever, for a while, at least for a few years. Um, that wasn't to be. She would have been the first Indian woman to score 100 on debut. Wasn't to be. But she now has the highest score by an Indian woman on Test debut, and she was part of a historic record partnership alongside Smriti Mandhana in her very first outing in whites. Of course, India women playing their first Test match after 7 years. There's plenty of cricket still to be played over the next couple of days, and of course the World Test Championship final starting on Friday in Southampton between India and New Zealand. India, of course, announced their playing 11, very strong, balanced 11. That will get you a lot of updates and previews and reviews and analysis from that game as well, alongside the women's Test match and the European Championship and other sports. So stay glued to sports today. This is going to be big. We are bringing you everything at breakneck speed: news, analysis, interviews, you name it, and we are here with all of that on Sports Today. So please keep supporting us. Do subscribe to the channel and stay safe. Thank you so much for joining me on this live broadcast. See you again tomorrow. Have a very good night.